What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to discuss the parallels, it's funny, play on words, no pun intended here, between Frederick Dodson and his teachings in the parallel universes of self, as well as Neville's teachings. Everybody, obviously Neville is super famous. Everybody knows his name in this kind of realm of manifesting and what have you. Frederick Dodson, a little bit less well known, a little bit more, not as quite as mainstream in this, at least in this community, right? And I'm glad that people are appreciating his work and drawing parallels between them. You know, I mentioned in a previous post that somebody had posted on Reddit that through Frederick Dodson, they finally understood Neville. And in this, I'm going to play you guys a little snippet from his book, Parallel Universes of Self, so that you guys can get a different kind of perspective on what this whole formless, identityless self is, this whole state akin to sleep, this whole alpha level of mind, where we're stepping into the formless, we're stepping into the storyless. We're letting go of that previous story, that previous narrative that we've been entertaining, that previous, the ego, which is built up of all of our experiences, everything that we have interpreted those experiences to mean, whether positive, whether negative, and we are allowing ourselves, if Dodson likens these different parallel universes or parallel timelines to different highways, right? They're different highways, they're different roads that can be traveled down. And when we detach from this identity, this ego experience that we've kind of created, and in quantum physics as well, they talk about how like the present is really all that there is. The past and the future don't really exist. They're all that really is the now. It's very hard for the human mind to really kind of conceive of this and really put it together. But just suspend your disbelief for a little bit. Take a listen to the way that he explains this and just realize that really, truly, the way that the only way that we can create or choose or whatever language you want to use for this is by being in the present moment. The present moment is all that exists right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and
yourself
play
that's already
this.
Experiencing a certain reality. The feeling of desire is indicative of two things. You're separate from that version of yourself who is already experiencing it, but also that this alternate version is not too far away from you in terms of probability. You can't want anything that doesn't already belong to you. That's the good news. If it didn't already contain the potential to experience it, you wouldn't be feeling it. You wouldn't even be able to think about it. You needn't feel nostalgia or remorse over old dreams that never fulfilled, because from another dimensional viewpoint, they have fulfilled and can be reaccessed. You are anything you can imagine. And once you understand how to shift consciousness so that you correspond with what you desire, or so that your desire corresponds with your innermost beliefs, then you'll become a very magical person indeed. Access to another version of yourself begins by returning to an identityless state, non-conceptual consciousness, the 0 point of infinity, the realm of the pure I am, the observer, the witness who is not identified with anything, the one who is being nothing and nobody, and at the same time, everything. It's not recommended to identify with a new reality while still identified with an old one. Becoming identityless is not as complicated as it may sound. The infinite identity-less self is accessed in deep inner silence, in a specific type of meditation. From the 0 point, you start receiving, not creating, various versions of self. Then you enter the viewpoint of the preferred version, not looking at it, but as it, and experience the joy you would be experiencing as that person.
From it.
This is all a matter of focusing attention in a very certain way. The only reason you don't suddenly shift realities is because you focus in a similar way from day to day. You'll learn that reality surfing is very much like taking on a new film role and behaving according to the film script. The exact procedure will be outlined later. Before that, you'll have to loosen up some of your definitions about what reality is. The I of infinity. In the beginning, in the end, and in between and beyond, there was, is, and will be infinity.
Yeah, so again, Joe Dispenza, he talks about how we have the same 40,000 thoughts or whatever every single day because we're repeating the same kind of thing, the same kind of story, the same kind of film role. Vadim Zealand in Tufty the Princess talks about this as well. Like the film role, strolling through the film. And what he's saying here is very much what Neville talks about. When Neville says, think from the wish fulfilled, not of the wish fulfilled. And when he goes into the I am meditation, that I am consciousness, it is the identityless. It is the pure I am, that lies beneath the body, beneath the mind, beneath the story of who it is that you are. It is the consciousness. It is the awareness that is behind your awareness. And so, really like hearing these types of things being discussed from different people. Eckhart Tolle is a really great person to listen to as well, but it really kind of solidifies sometimes these things that are just hard for our minds to grasp, hard for us to understand intellectually. Sometimes it really helps hearing different people describe them from their own viewpoints and perspectives so that we can really get a grasp on it, because maybe the way that he describes it, maybe the way that Dodson, or maybe the way that Eckhart, or maybe the way that some like Joe Dispenza describes it, maybe that resonates more. Maybe that makes it just finally click for us so that we really understand what is going on here. But at the heart of this, I would say that it's like, and Dodson mentions this in this book, it's like that God consciousness, that divine consciousness, and that is in us. That is in us. We are that. And that's what they talk about in like non-dualism and stuff too. And like when I was interviewing Sunny Sharma as well, is this realization really that nothing's off limit to us, because we are the all. We are the all of creation. The all of creation like is permeated through us. And so when we kind of shift into this embodiment of this kind of higher energy, magical things start to happen. Synchronicities start to happen, opportunities happen, doors open for us, and all of these different magical things start to play out. But that it really goes into that feeling, the feeling of detachment, the feeling of I'm good, that feeling of security that we talk about, of the wish fulfilled, is very much what Dodson is talking about here with the 0 point awareness, the stillness, the inner equilibrium within. We are not getting excited. We're not getting disappointed. We're not getting falling into any of these like more volatile emotional states, because we are that inner peace that is kind of godly and kind of divine in a sense. And because we're experiencing so much inner satisfaction from being at one with this divine energy that permeates through everything. Again, it goes back to, the picture of the Buddha. That's what I like to imagine, where he's just sitting there and all the animals are flocking to him and the birds are singing around him and the trees are just, the flowers are blooming everywhere, because you're getting in touch with that. You're getting in touch with, I don't need anything from anyone. And if you notice too, like in human interactions, it goes so deep that you could literally go up to somebody, say the exact same thing. In one way, it's just like, yeah, take it or leave it. Like, I'm out here providing value and whatever. And it could be in the form of video. It could be in the form of, personal interaction, like dating, whatever. And they might love you, right? But you come over there and it's just that different slight tweak in the energy where it's like, there's a little bit of neediness there. People get repelled by that, and it's the same thing with the universe. It's the same thing with the world around us. The universal energy can sense that inner neediness that we have sometimes. And that is why we distance ourselves energetically. That's what Vidyam Zeland talks about, when like lowering the importance. And these are all different ways of describing the same thing.
And there's no observer without its corresponding reality. Thus, reality version and observer version are always connected. Every reality comes with an observer, and every observer comes with a reality. And it also means that there is an infinite number of realities that you do not perceive, but are just as real as your current one. And they're taking place just as your current one, and especially they are all accessible by you, because they are also you. This also means that you don't really have to create these realities, because they already exist. You merely have to become the version of yourself that corresponds to the desired reality. Parallel reality surfing. Life becomes even more interesting once you realize that there are many versions of yourself and millions of options that await you. The hundreds of highways already laid out in front of you may be called your destiny or highest probability. Which of these highways you choose may be called a matter of free will. Even if, from a limited viewpoint, your choice is reduced to only 100 paths, that's still a lot more than most have dared to travel up to now. Do you feel the breeze of fresh air when becoming aware of how many options you have to choose from? Do you feel the breeze turning into a thunderstorm of fascination when I tell you that your infinite self has actually traveled all of these paths, and that you can link into any of these versions of reality and experience them just as real as you are experiencing your current reality? The only catch is that you have to forget or lose one reality in order to fully identify with another. And that's the precise reason you're sitting there acting as if your current reality were the only one. We do that in order to focus in detail, rather than being swept away by a chaos of infinite myriads of possibilities. We limit ourselves in order to focus on one aspect of being in detail. The version of yourself that went to the right, the one that went to the left, the one that went straight on, the one that dropped out of school, the one that married, the one that didn't marry, the one that went to Hollywood and failed, the one that went to Hollywood and succeeded, the one that became a vet, the one that became a bank clerk, the one that became a professional soccer player, the one who invented a new perfume, the one that got divorced, the one that had children, the one that was poor, the one that was rich, the one that was both, the one that was neither. Your infinite self has experienced every and any variation of being. And since your essence is infinite self, so can you. In other words, the all that is universe is one with everything. You are one with the all that is universe. Therefore, you too are one with everything and do have access to it. As the limited world self, the immersed or already identified self, you may be aware that your life might have gone another direction had you made other decisions. But as this world self, you've probably not been aware that these other versions of you do exist and can be entered. Do you remember that longing desire you had as a teenager to go a certain way and then ended up not going that way? Well, another self version did go that way and is living that life right now. And the ability to become this version whenever you want is instilled within your consciousness. The keys to this ability are your sense of identity and the attributes the identity or world self uses, which are intention, imagination, belief, attention, emotion, communication, and action, or behavior or body sense. As you'll learn in this audiobook, you needn't control all of these aspects separately. Instead, a single shift in identity awareness, I am, will have all sub-level aspects shift automatically and naturally. From where you stand right now, you can first view and explore other already existing timelines, and then choose between one of them, and then enter these reality-scapes by identifying with them. This basically means taking on the viewpoint of that other version of yourself, taking on the viewpoint of the person who is already enjoying that reality. But this isn't done by visualizing, affirming, setting goals, trying, working, achieving, or even ritual. These things are all taught in New Age philosophies, but they all contradict taking on the viewpoint of the one for whom it is already real. If you really were to take on that viewpoint, you would no longer need to desire, wish for, hope for, affirm, aim, or visualize the reality, because you are it. It is in this sense that, while we might be talking about things familiar to the You Create Your Own Reality listeners, the approach will be an entirely different one. The reality you're in currently may be the most familiar to you, but it may not be the most fun. Just because it's the most habitual, seemingly solid, normal, and factual, doesn't mean it's the only real one that you're damned to remain in. An easy way to gain preliminary access to alternate self versions before choosing one is by asking yourself how your life may have progressed had you made another decision or non-decision, as your mind follows the probable flow of events from that decision on.
All right, so in this, he says you don't need to engage in visualization, affirmation, and all these tools. But in this book, his pure technique consists of a visualization practice and of using language, which is another way of saying affirmations, right? Yeah, of course, if we could just snap into this version of ourselves that we want to identify with and just immediately see life through that viewpoint, that would be fantastic, right? A lot of us don't really have that ability. I mean, it's much easier said than done to do something like that, which is why robotic affirming, scripting, as if you already had that from that viewpoint of that version of yourself, is going to be effective. Even people that say, if I was affirming this, then, I wouldn't really need, if I was really living that life, I wouldn't really need to affirm. Well, you wouldn't need to affirm, but you probably would affirm. You'd be like, yeah, I'm so amazing, right? These are just thoughts that would naturally come into your head. I'm so grateful for this life. I'm so grateful for XYZ thing in my reality. If you were living from that viewpoint, you would naturally have these affirmations or this self-talk narrative that would be going on in your story already, because you simply are appreciative. You simply do feel that peace. You simply do feel that joy to experience what it is that you have in your life, right? So, it's kind of like do as they say, not as they, or do as they do, not as they say type of thing, where it's like, yeah, you can say these things, it sounds nice, and there's a lot of value here in what he's saying. It really is about embodying that new viewpoint. But using these tools are the way that we're going to be able to get ourselves there. And he mentions too that using your imagination, your emotion, your communication, your attention, these are all tools that, and yes, they could all snap into place by identifying with that viewpoint. But one practical way that we can change that is by changing our attention, changing our emotion, changing our awareness, changing our communication, our behavior. That's why, from the outside in, the power pose thing works. Breathing deeply works. envisioning yourself and having a positive self-talk with yourself to say that I am strong. Why is it that I'm so lucky? Why is it that I'm just constantly running into positive things? Why are things just getting better and better and better in my life? Is going to inform that behavior. It's going to inform those internal representations. It's going to inform all of the things which lead into that new bodily sense of being that version of yourself, of being that new version, of being that new point of awareness, that new, and coming from that new viewpoint. So very useful stuff here. It's very similar, again, so many parallels to what he's saying, to what Neville talks about, but it's just said in a way that is just so much easier to grasp and for a lot of people out there. So, I hope that this helps. Again, share your 2 cents down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. Hit me with a like, hit me with a subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.